President Trump's self-imposed Friday deadline for countries to make trade deals or be hit with higher import tariffs looms over the global economy. Today, the president gave Mexico, America's largest single trading partner, a reprieve of 90 more days to come to an agreement. Deal with China so far has eluded negotiators. To help us sort all of this out for tonight's interview, Scott Lincicome, vice president at the Cato Institute Center for Trade Policy Studies, is back with us. Scott, let's help everybody. Where are we in the story? Tell us about the deals that have been agreed to, named, kind of what's happened so far.
Yeah, so we have a handful of trade deals concluded. The United Kingdom, the European Union, Japan, and a few others. But the actual details for these agreements are pretty vague. What we know is that there will be some lower U.S. tariff rates compared to what Trump threatened, but much higher tariffs on these countries' imports compared to what we had, say, in January of this year. Meanwhile, the governments abroad have promised to do a bunch of stuff, buy a bunch of American energy, open their markets, but that is all really TBD. And so in that regard, we just have to wait and see how these things materialize. What we know right now is higher U.S. tariffs for these countries, and then, of course, higher U.S. tariffs for everybody else who didn't make a deal, 20% or even higher on those imports.
So the effective tariff rate, as I gather it from various different studies, is anywhere between 17 and 19%. Put that in perspective for people, and what does that mean to their wallets?
Right. Yeah. So tariffs before President Trump took office again in January averaged around 3%. Today, the tariffs we're collecting are more than 10%. And on a statutory basis, like you said, they're going up to 15 to 20%, depending on how you measure. So that is a massive tax increase on imports. And it's a tax that's mainly paid by American companies and consumers. How that all shakes out depends. GM reported eating about $1 billion in tariff costs instead of passing on them to consumers. But a lot of other companies, well, they don't have those profit margins. They can't do that. And they're just raising their prices and making us eat the tariffs.
Yeah. So is that the next question for this next stage, is basically how much of a pass through?
Right. And that's the next things we are looking at are, one, how much are American consumers, you and me, eating these tariffs compared to American companies? If it's American companies, well, that's not great. It's a new corporate tax, but it's different from consumers and different from consumer prices, which is important not just for us, but also for political reasons, right? As if the consumer price index and the general price level were to pick up a little bit, well, that's a tough political sell as well. So that's something to look at. And then again, how companies are facing these tariffs. Are they cutting back on investment because they're paying higher tariffs and not passing them on? All stuff that we're going to figure out in the months ahead, and we just don't know yet.
And in about the last 30 seconds we have, Scott, there is, the emergency authority the president claimed for these tariffs is being reviewed by judges. What's at stake there?
Well, a lot is at stake. Today, we heard oral arguments before the federal circuit related to all of Trump's emergency tariffs. This includes all of the baseline and reciprocal tariffs you've heard about with these trade deals. It also includes the Canada, Mexico, and China fentanyl-related tariffs. So that is the biggest and broadest Trump tariffs. It's all the trade deals. And if the courts overrule these actions, then those tariffs go away. And even more importantly, perhaps, is they have to refund that money.
All right, perfectly. Thank you so much, Scott. We got to leave it there.